Go ahead, Andy, with the sky this month.
Hi, my name's Andy Beaton. I'm talking from the chaos of my basement office here in downtown Toronto, and I'm here to talk about the sky this month. I'm excited to learn there are people from outside Toronto watching this over the internet, because if this was just Toronto, I'd say don't bother, it's going to be nothing but rain for the next month. But here we go. What's up? The usual list of things when I'm doing this: the big picture, key dates, the moon, planets, something in the deep sky, double star, a variable star, and whatever's coming up in the world of spaceflight. So we'll start with the big picture. This is tonight at 10 p.m. If we were to wander out and have a look at the sky after the meeting, we'd see some nice planets. We'd see all our favorite winter constellations up there: Orion and Gemini and Taurus, and all the fantastic deep sky objects that we come to expect from the winter. The moon is pretty bright, so it's not going to be an outstanding night for observing your deep sky objects, but they'll be there as soon as the moon goes away. Before the next meeting, things look very different. We're going to have the spring constellations up early in the morning, Virgo and Boötes, and even some of the summer constellations are going to start appearing. So if you're yearning for that summer Milky Way, just stay awake until 6 a.m. and it'll be showing up there for you. So the nights are not getting shorter. This is a mistake on my part. The nights are getting longer now that we're past the winter solstice. Twilight is ending at 6:19 tonight and starts again at 5:52 in the morning. So we've got a nice long night of observing. By the time we get to the end of the month, twilight will be ending probably about half hour later and starting 20 minutes earlier. So nights will be getting shorter. Still plenty of time for those long nights of collecting photons in your cameras. Important dates coming up. The new moon is on January 21st. Plan your deep sky observing around that. Oh man, I'm just typos all over the place tonight. That should be January. No, I just missed that date entirely. That should be January 7th for the apogee, where the moon is at its farthest, and perigee on the 21st. Man, I don't know what's going on here tonight. Full moon is on January 6th. I don't know if there's a word for a opposite of a supermoon, a minor moon, but the moon is going to be as far away as possible when we have the full moon. It's going to be a very small full moon. Tonight is the peak of the quadrantid meteors, which is one of the better meteor showers we're going to get. And Earth is at perihelion today. That's the closest approach to the sun. So ideally, this should be the warmest day of the year if you believe in geometry. Moon events coming up. First quarter is on January 28th. Full moon on January 6th. Last quarter on the 15th, and the new moon is on the 21st. The lunar X, for those people who haven't heard of it before, is an intersection between two craters. When illuminated at just the right angle, and that's going to happen at 3 in the morning on November 1st. Oh man, I can't believe I'm getting so much stuff wrong here. Make that February 1st. Then it looks like an X shape in light against the darkness of the lunar floor. The lunar straight wall is another interesting feature. It comes from the light of the sun hitting a long rill on at a certain angle. It's much less time dependent. Anytime during the evening of January 29th, you will get to see this object illuminated in a interesting and aesthetically pleasing way. So the planets coming up. Mercury is going to be disappointing in the evening. This is probably the last night we'll see it for a while, until later in the month, and it will start showing up in the morning in the twilight. Venus is going to be our best twilight object. It's visible now, and throughout the month, it's going to be climbing higher and getting brighter. Mars is probably the most obvious planet looking overhead. It's in Taurus at sunset and will be easily visible throughout the month. It is, however, moving away from the Earth, so the longer you wait, the smaller it's going to be. I think it's just under 8 arc seconds across now, so it's getting pretty small. Jupiter is just past opposition now. Excellent target, getting smaller as it drifts away from the Earth. Right now, it's going to be setting just before midnight and setting earlier as the month progresses. It's still going to be a very good object in the western sky. If you've got friends and family who are interested in looking through your telescope and wondering what the fuss is, Jupiter is probably going to be your best target. It's going to be the most spectacular of the planets. Saturn should be, but it's getting low in the west. It's going to set very early, and by the end of the month, it will be almost entirely gone. Uranus, it's just past opposition as well, so it's probably about as good as it's going to get. It'll be visible until after midnight all month long, and it's still going to be pretty much what we expect from Uranus. It'll be a small blue disk. I doubt we'll see anything like a feature with an amateur telescope, but I don't know, if you do a lot of imaging, stack up your images, you might get something. Neptune is placed even worse than Jupiter. It's closer to the horizon. It's findable, but because it's so low and so far away, you're not going to be able to see anything other than the fact that it exists. For the minor planets, Pluto's just, it's not going to happen. It's too close to the sun. Even if it weren't, it's a very difficult part of the sky to find it in, so you're going to need optimal conditions, and this isn't it. Ceres, on the other hand, is in Virgo, and if you're up in the morning, it's going to be the most interesting solar system object. It's a 7.1 magnitude, right overhead throughout the late morning, and it's going to be 0.6 arc seconds in diameter. So if you check the little chart in your observer's handbook, in theory, you should be able to get a disk with anything bigger than, say, an 8-inch telescope. In practice, let's be realistic, you probably need a bigger telescope, or you need a lot of images that you can stack up to get the noise out of there. So I always like to talk about something in the deep sky. This month I've picked the Rosette Nebula. It's a bit to the left of the constellation of Orion. It's a pretty spectacular one. Here, I'm just going to pop ahead for a second. There we go. Look at that nice red nebula with the star cluster in between. Any reasonable telescope should show it. It's a fairly bright nebula. Obviously, if you're in the city, the sky glow is going to destroy it, but anywhere in the country, you're going to should be able to see a nice donut shape. It is centered around an open cluster NGC 2244, and that's pretty bright. That's brighter than fifth magnitude. Any pair of binoculars or anything like that should see it in the city. In the country, it's going to be a naked eye object. It's interesting because that open cluster in the center is what's causing that donut shape in the nebula. The solar wind from all those bright new stars forming in the nebula are blasting a hole out in the middle. And in a few 100,000 to million years, they will disperse it entirely. I do like that nice red color. That's very good. If you're a more advanced observer interested in doing something more challenging than just finding a nebula or finding a cluster, the nebula is part of a huge molecular cloud. I've seen images that people have taken, long exposure images in hydrogen alpha. This cloud extends all through Monoceros, all through Orion, basically all through the Milky Way in that sector of the sky. It's a huge, huge blob of hydrogen gas. If you can image that, it'd be a very challenging but rewarding target. The other thing about this nebula is it's the open cluster right in the middle is not the only one that's been spawned out of this cloud of gas. There are a number of open clusters surrounding it, in and around and behind it, all part of the Colander catalog if you want to take a look at that. Any of your usual Atlas software packages should show you a large number of open clusters around this nebula. So we have comets and we have meteors. The quadrantids, like I was saying before, are tonight, generally running from the December 26th until January 16th. Strictly speaking, it peaked early this morning, but tonight should be a good night as well. Under a good dark sky, maybe 120 meteors an hour. The moon is going to be a problem until it gets close to setting, so I wouldn't expect a count that high, but you should get a reasonable number. Minor showers coming along the Coma Berenices running from December 5th to February 4th. Here we're looking at single-digit numbers of meteors per hour. And then we have the meteor dribbles, the ones that don't even count as a shower. We've got the Alpha Hydrids from December 15th to January 22nd. We have the Omicron Leonids from December 20th to January 22nd, and the Eta Corvids from January 7th to February 5th. None of these are worth going outside to look for. We're talking individual meteors per hour. However, if you are out observing and you happen to see a meteor, it might be worth tracing back to its general area of origin and see if it turns out to be one of these meteor dribbles at work. So we got comets, C2022 E3 ZTF. Currently 7.4 magnitude in Corona Borealis. This is the one that all the cool kids are looking for. With any luck, and I hate to make predictions about comets because it's invariably wrong, but experts are predicting that it may reach naked eye brightness by the end of the month. So keep an eye for that. It's been a while since we've had a good naked eye comet, and I think we deserve one. We have C2017 K2 Pan-STARRS, 8.5 magnitude in Pavo. And normally I wouldn't mention this, except that I've seen that we do have observers in the southern hemisphere joining us. So you guys down there, have a look, see if you can spot this one. We've got a couple of 9.8 magnitude comets, C2022 V2 ZTF in Cepheus, C2022 A2 Pan-STARRS in Boötes. and a couple of periodic comets, 81P Wild in Libra and 118P Schumacher-Levy in Cancer. Not particularly spectacular. They're all going to be blown out of the water by the first one, E3 ZTF, but it's always fun to find comets. Last time I did this, there were all kinds of aurora predicted for that night, and as far as I know, nothing turned up. But you never know what's going to happen. So I'm going to point out spaceweather.com as a source for up-to-date forecast maps of where we can expect to see aurora. Keep an eye on that. Just because tonight is a lousy aurora night doesn't mean that you're not going to see something good in upcoming weeks. So I like to do a multiple star just because they're interesting things to look at. And I thought, since the Orion Nebula wasn't my pick for the deep sky object, I thought I would at least go for the trapezium as the multiple star, also known as Theta 1 Orionis, and best known as the source of energy that makes the Orion Nebula glow. With a telescope, obviously you're going to see 4 super bright ones in that famous trapezium shape. There are at least 4 others visible with a moderate-sized telescope. But it gets even cooler than that. A and B stars are also eclipsing binaries. And another star has a close companion that can't be discerned from a normal human-sized telescope. So basically, we're looking at 11 stars in one obviously unstable configuration. 11 stars, there's no way it's going to stay together. So I expect in 100,000 years or so, or at most 1 million years, this thing's going to scatter to the 4 corners of the nebula. I do like variable stars, as people who have heard my talks before know. Tonight's pick is BP Tauri. It's a T-tau type variable, generally going from 11.5 to 12.7 magnitude. These guys are interesting. Not only is T Taurus a star that planet orbits in Star Trek, but it's also a type of star, a very young star, which is not actually being powered by fusion yet. It's still being powered by the energy of gravitational collapse. So I'll do my usual pitch. The American Association of Variable Star Observers has been collecting data on variable stars for the past century. If you're a professional astronomer, you don't have time to look at all these things every night for years on end to gather your data. You farm it out to amateurs like us. So if you're looking for a chance to contribute to science, take your telescope out, measure the brightness of BP Tauri or any other variable star, submit it to the database, and know that you've contributed your little grain of sand to the mountain of science. So coming up for spaceflight, and for the guys running the show, this is a sign that I'm getting close to the end of my talk. JWST is still up there, still being calibrated, still new unheard discoveries coming from there, so keep an eye on that. Starship and the Super Heavy Orbital test are coming up. Once again, date to be determined. We don't know exactly when that's going to happen. There's a new launch facility on Wallops Island, Virginia, and they're going to be launching an Electron rocket as its first launch from that facility. Keep an eye on that. If you're living on the east coast of the United States, keep an eye out for a rocket being launched. If it's a nighttime launch, it should be pretty obvious. If it's a daytime launch, you'll want to be closer, but still may be visible. The Perseverance rover still driving around Mars and is now dropping canisters of soil samples for later pickup. The pickup mission hasn't been sorted out yet, but I like that we've got some future things being planned for. ISS, the International Space Station, is going to be passing in the morning until January 8th. Then it'll be out of view for us for a few days, and then from January 14th until the next meeting, it'll be passing overhead in the evening. And there's another thing, if you've got friends or family who are vaguely interested in science, but you want to show them something spectacular, show them the space station passing over. Show them the astronauts, looking down on us as they go overhead. It makes an impression on people. For times and locations, heavensabove.com is where I've been going. You can set in your own location, get your own proper times and locations for space station passes. And of course, we know it's going to be cloudy for at least part of the upcoming month, and we know it's also going to be cold, and some of us don't really want to go out in the freezing cold to do some science. Zooniverse.org is a source of citizen science projects. There are dozens of projects, many of them astronomy related, like Solar Jet Hunter, Aurora Zoo, classifying aurora as they appear and are photographed. The Super WASP Observatory measuring variable stars, you can get involved there. Planet 4 is tracking and classifying Mars weather. So if you're interested in helping out understanding the red planet, there's your chance there. And I threw this in, I just found out about it this afternoon. One more variable star happening. GK Persei, aka Nova Persei 1901, is in outburst. If you're a variable star observer, please step up and have a look at this. They're looking for a joint observing project with one of the orbiting observatories as it's gone into outburst. Everything is happening very fast here. This is a rapidly brightening star. If you get a chance tonight or the next few nights, please head out there and have a look. So thanks very much for your time, and I hope we all have clear skies.
All right, thank you very much, Andy, for a detailed The Sky This Month presentation. Let's see if we have any questions for Andy. Emma, what about you?
Yeah, we got a question coming in from Paul Markov, who wants to know, are iridium flares still happening, or are they all done?
Now, if Emma's asking me questions, I can't hear them.
Okay. Andy, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Strangely enough, it's actually a question from myself, and I was wanting to know whether iridium flares are still happening or are they pretty much finished?
Oh, that's a good question. And I guess the honest answer to that is I don't know, but I know where I would go to find out, and that is heavensabove.com, where you can enter your location and it will tell you what kind of flares you'll be expecting and where they would be.
Yeah, it just popped into my mind because nobody has mentioned them in quite some time, so I'm figuring out that they're probably done by now. They've all been deorbited and burnt up or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll actually look that up and I'll answer it in the chat on the YouTube channel before the night's out.
Very good, thank you. Emma, any more questions for Andy?
Nope, that's it. That's the only one.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you, Emma, and thank you, Andy.